Namaste everyone. We, the students of Manipal School of Architecture and Planning, MAHE, have conducted our analysis for Enlighten Asia 2021 Nightscape of Asian Cities in the vicinity of our college town, an area known as Udupi city, Karnataka, India. With a population of over 12 lakhs and a land area of about 68 kilometers square, Udupi city is a hub of education, culture, and tourism. Keeping this in mind, we have shortlisted 3 sites to study: Endpoint Road in Manipal, Krishna Matha Temple Square in Udupi, and Malpe Beach and Sea Walk. We aim to study the context and culture of each site and find ways to incorporate their distinct features into their lighting design. Unfortunately, due to the restrictions caused by the pandemic, we were unable to physically study the sites beyond the initial stages, so a lot of our information must be credited to the internet. The 3 sites we have picked are unique and have very different contexts, resulting in different needs. Site 1, which is the Endpoint Road in Manipal, is a major street of the town known for its residential and commercial activities. Site 2, the Krishna Matha in Udupi, is a religious area dedicated to the Hindu deity Lord Krishna and is known for its culture and heritage. Site 3, the Malpe Beach, is a port, fishing harbour and tourism spot bordering the Arabian Sea. On behalf of our team, I, Ananya, along with fellow narrators Snigdha and Rajeshwari, will be leading you through this presentation. We begin our analysis with the first site in Udupi city, which is the Endpoint Road in Manipal. Presented here are the team members that have actively worked on the first site. Part of the education hub that is Manipal, our site borders Mahe on one side and a hybrid commercial and residential zone on the other, with some of the landmarks present in this area shown here. It is known for its urban nature, along with being one of the busiest streets in the college town. Significant to the culture of the area, we have chosen this site based on the following 3 reasons: the health and education centers, the nightlife, and the tourism. Lighting can be used to enhance the more important structures and landmarks, showcase the vibrant nature of the nightlife, and highlight the attractive tourist spots. Analyzing the survey area of our site, we have the existing road network, the figure-ground relation, and the keynotes: DC office, the Upendra Pai Memorial, colloquially known as Coin Circle, the commercial area, and Syndicate Circle. The site extends from the DC office to the Syndicate Circle. Now, we shall move on to the existing scenario of the site. The context is that of the Endpoint Road, with the 4 nodes labeled here. The highlighted portions mark out the important structures present along the site, which make up the survey area, contrasted with the surrounding context. The key nodes we have studied are shown here, each having different land use patterns and offering different lighting schemes. In the circulation network, you can see that there is vehicular access throughout the site, with traffic hotspots present on nodes 4 and 2. Pedestrian movement is also present throughout the site, with minimum density on node 1, peak density on node 2, and moderate density on node 3. Public transport is sparse on site but can be easily accessed from the same. Existing street lighting is mainly metal halide lamps, with additional lighting provided by commercial establishments. Node 1 has large dark zones and is isolated. Node 2 is an active street with visual discomfort due to vehicular glare. Node 3 has adequate visual scope despite the presence of dark zones. And Node 4 is a traffic junction with adequate but reduced visual scope. Now, we move on to the heroes of this site. Our first hero is the emphasis of key urban elements with the use of lighting on nodes 2 and 3. The highlighted areas are a vibrant and important part of the identity of Manipal city. They act as landmarks, each with different lighting schemes consisting mainly of spot and accent lighting, which enhance the overall legibility of the town. These qualities give the site value and account for their continued usage and depth of collective urban life. Our second hero, which is prevalent throughout the site, is the compliance of the existing street lighting with the lighting code standards. The metal halide lamps used are shielded cut-off fixtures, which is one of the most efficient forms of street lighting. These are aligned along a landscaped median, hence naturally guiding the vehicular circulation. Our third hero, emphasized on nodes 2 and 3, is the dynamic lighting created by the mixed land use structures present on site. The residential buildings do not impart additional urban lighting, whereas commercial establishments assist in street illumination. This light impacts the orientation, use, safety, and visual quality of the space after dark. The sections used highlight how the varied land use patterns impact the lighting. Now, we shall discuss the villains of this site. Our first villain, present mostly on nodes 1, 3, and 4, is the absence of relevant architectural lighting design. Lighting fails to accentuate the urban details of the built and unbuilt spaces, which leads to a lack of vibrancy in the design. Nighttime usability and livability of the urban spaces are not enhanced by way of the lighting design due to this failure of identifying the relationship between the spaces and human behavior. The second villain, mostly present on nodes 3 and 4, is the failure of the lighting design to complement the cultural character of the town. The local character of the neighborhood is not reflected through innovative patterns of illumination and lighting schemes in either the building facades or the street lighting, which is disappointing when considering the rich heritage and culture of Manipal. It fails to establish an urban identity by way of emphasizing perceptible characteristics and enhancing imageability of the town. The third and final villain, present throughout the site, is the failure of the lighting to support pedestrian navigation. There is a distinct lack of illumination at the crosswalks and pedestrian pathways, and the absence of signages and demarcated pathways together hinder the navigation ability of pedestrians and creates dangerous streets for them. After conducting our analysis of the site, we have reached the conclusion that there are a few elements that cannot be classified as heroes or villains alone due to their complexity and multifaceted presence. First of this category is the light spill from storefronts, present on nodes 2, 3, and 4. These public storefronts act as an additional source of street lighting in the form of accent and spot lighting, recessed fixtures, flood lighting, and LED billboards, which allow after-dark activities and extend the use of urban spaces. The street culture stands out without relying on external lighting sources, along with being a source of illumination for the streets. On the other hand, these storefronts also cause sky glow and glare formation due to excess light spill. This element, along with the use of unshielded fixtures by the commercial establishments, lead to light pollution, which is especially dangerous since this lighting guides vehicular and pedestrian movement as a secondary form of street lighting. The second example of this category is the presence of dark zones throughout the site, which hinders the safety of the users, notably pedestrians. The vegetation present on the side of the roads covers any street lights present, leading to large dark zones and shadows, along with a possible rise in crime. Illumination is sparse for the pedestrian pathway, and natural surveillance is all but absent. Lack of adequate lighting in the site endangers drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians alike. However, these dark zones are useful to mitigate the excess light spill, most notably on Node 2, where the storefronts and their light spill are most dangerous to vehicular and pedestrian safety. These zones are a reprieve from the harsh lighting of the street and provide an element of security to pedestrian movement. With this, we conclude our analysis of Endpoint Road, Manipal, and we shall now move on to the second side, Krishna Matha in Udupi.
Moving on to the lighting analysis of Site 2, the Udupi Sri Krishna Matha. Presented here are the team members who have actively worked on the same. The cultural heritage of Sri Krishna Matha. Located in Udupi, Sri Krishna Mata is an important religious center for Hindus all over India. The Sanskrit words Sri Krishna Mata translates to the monastery of the Hindu god Krishna. Founded by the Hindu saint Madhvacharya in the 13th century, the complex comprises 3 main temples and 8 monasteries or Ashtamatas. As seen in the image, during the annual festival of Saptotsava, commemorating the consecration of the idol of Lord Krishna, the entire surrounding has a dazzling appearance with decorated chariots, attractive illuminations, and makes use of modern and traditional lighting techniques like oil lamps and artificial lighting devices. To mark Lakshadipotsava or the Festival of Lights, thousands of devotees congregate in and around the area and feel a sense of fulfillment by lighting the diyas or oil lamps. Krishna Janmashtami is an annual Hindu festival that celebrates the birth of Lord Krishna. The Krishna temple and other mathas glitter with colorful miniature lights and is surely a visual treat for the public. So why have we chosen Udupi? Udupi is known for its tangible heritage. Illuminating heritage buildings must be carried out with extreme care, considering color, heat, and shadows to avoid any damage. Artificial lighting recreates the splendor of heritage structures and upgrades them into nighttime tourist attractions, providing visitors with a welcoming and secure ambience. Vibrancy in lighting design is essential to add to the overall value and emotion of the high-spirited culture of Udupi. Here, we have mapped the existing scenario of the temple site that we have taken into consideration. Since our site area is quite large, we have divided the areas into 3 zones for ease of reference. The spaces and heritage structures are oriented around the car street, also known as the Ratha Bidi, which is the central circulation area. Around the same are the ancillary roads, serving as commercial zones banked with small stores on the sides. These narrow alleys rely on shopfront lighting for visibility after nightfall. The gateways to the complex restrict vehicular movement, and the floodlights illuminate large spaces for activity and pedestrian circulation in the Ratha Bidi. The role of light in our culture. As the ancient Sanskrit prayer goes, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, meaning, may the light of knowledge remove the darkness of ignorance and lead us from darkness to light. Light plays an important role in our culture and is an essential part of Hindu festivals. During festivals such as Deepotsava, the temple complexes are lit with thousands of diyas or oil lamps, which are essential in Hinduism because it signifies purity, good luck, and power. Artificial lighting ranging from 2000 to 4000 Kelvin is ideal for the temple complex as it emulates the warmth of a fire and adheres to the religious context. The Udupi town has developed around the temple complex over the years. As shown below, the intensity of light pollution is comparatively high in the Matha area. As a control measure, the capping of lighting fixtures can be done to avoid trespassing of light. Coming to the heroes observed on site. The first hero observed is the compelling historical and cultural narrative offered by the space. The intangible quality of light accentuates the features of built-up and non-built-up elements and the overall aura of the space. On the right, we see the spaces lit up progressively as night falls with a dip in lux levels. As seen in the photograph, the absence of daylight and only artificial lighting records a relatively lower lux value. Some of the lighting fixtures used have also been mentioned. Coming to Hero 2. Darkness and shadows play a significant role in emphasizing prime spaces, such as the entrances for the temples and the congregation zones. In the photographs, we see the view of the Ananteshwar temple entrance in the presence and absence of daylight. In Hero 3, the infusion of temple style of architecture with the authentic South Carnatic tile sloping roofs in the shop fronts provides opportunities for integrating lighting fixtures with the architectural elements. As seen in this section, the play of heights or lighting levels also creates opportunities for better lighting placements and resultantly better spatial lighting effects. On the right, we see that the strategically placed accent lighting enhances specific architectural details of the temple facade after nightfall and prevents light from escaping onto other surfaces and overly brightening the outdoor lighting scheme, and doesn't add to the area's overall lux. In Hero 4, the pedestrian-centric design with restricted vehicular access helps to reduce the number of street lamps and the intensity of light needed within the site. Now, coming to the villains identified. In Villain 1, the dark zones at street corners create dead space. Due to only 4 floodlights present in the temple complex area, some areas and nooks remain dark and obscure with little or no activity. In Villain 2, the absence of architectural lighting design. The emphasis given to the matha and the temple facades and the entrances through lighting is insufficient considering the value that they possess. In Villain 3, the temple square has multiple temples and matas. The lighting and pathways in the area do not naturally serve as a wayfinding technique to lead people to the prime spaces, and visitors may face confusion. In Villain 4, as mentioned earlier, the lighting color preference for a temple complex traditionally is a warmer tone ranging from 2000 Kelvin to 4000 Kelvin, which emulates a comfortable and peaceful ambience. But the usage of bright, cool white floodlighting provided at the corners of Carr Street, even though helpful for wide illumination, disrupts the feeling of warmth and comfort within the space and does not adhere to the cultural and historical context of the temple complex. Some aspects on site act as both heroes and villains as per their context. User activities and street culture at night stand out on their own instead of relying on external street lighting sources, making it more energy efficient. At the same time, the streets in and around the temple area lack street lighting and rely more or less on the storefront lighting itself for illumination. But as these sources of light are unregulated, unsuitable lighting conditions may occur. Considering both these contexts, this aspect can act as both a hero and a villain. From the earlier discussion, we determined that the site relies on storefront lighting, cutting off the dependency on conventional streetlights. This practice is sustainable and efficient, but due to some alleys and streets not having enough storefront lighting and no streetlights as well, the required illumination may not be achieved, hence being both a positive and a negative. With this, we conclude the analysis of the Krishna Mata temple site. Next, we will be moving on to our third site, the lighting analysis of Malpe Beach.
Getting into the analysis of the third site, that is Malpe Beach and Sea Walk. Presented here is the team that actively worked on this site. To begin with the significance of this site, Malpe is an ancient natural seaport and major fishing harbour on the Karnataka coast in India and one of the most sought out tourist destinations here. And in addition to that, it houses a huge population of marine life too. The images to our top right shows how Malpe caters to quite a number of commercial and cultural activities such as water sports, eatery shacks, beach utsavs, night flea markets, etc. Now coming to the history of this place, it talks about how the word Malpe translates to a village beside hills and suggests how St. Mary's Island used to be the hills that were a part of the beach 8,000 years ago. Lastly, here's a few photographs of different focal points of this area which shows how varied the characteristics are. Now why Malpe? It's because we see three aspects. that is, industry, tourism, and eco-sensitive areas coming under one umbrella. Malpe is known for its intense fishing and port activities, which require a functional lighting scheme, and on the other hand, it is also a popular tourist destination, which would make pleasant and attractive lighting schemes a prerequisite for the area. But on the contrary to the mentioned activities, Malpe also has a wide variety of marine life with over 300 species of fish, crabs, and zooplankton, which makes ecologically sensitive lighting a must for this place. We will now take a look into the existing scenario of the site. The road connecting the beach to the sea walk consists of two major intersections that are conflict zones for vehicles. Pedestrians have an option to move between the roads and the beach, providing them a safe space to walk through without having to interact with moving vehicles. Entries to the beach and seawalk area have access to public transport, thus being points of influx of people. Now here's a broad look at the urban lighting scheme of the whole area, starting with Node 1, where we mostly see mast lights and street lights. In the second node, we have an array of streetlights throughout the road. Further, at node 3, we see a variety of outdoor lighting schemes that are both functional and aesthetic due to the park and dock area. The final node is the sea walk, which again has an array of lampposts. Now we shall look at a couple of heroes that were identified in this site. This image is from our first node, and as we mentioned earlier, it has quite a number of commercial activities. The lights at these shops are turned on by 6 p.m. daily and serve as a main source of illuminance along with an array of streetlights opposite to it, providing a sufficient amount of illumination during the peak hours of footfall after dusk. Additionally, these shops are at a distance and height away from the sea surface, making it safe for the sea animals. Since it is always hustling and well lit, it feels secure for people too. To explain the second hero, we take an example of the lighting scheme at the first node. Since this area is bustling with commercial and industrial activities, adequate task lighting is extremely important to guide vehicles along the path without affecting people. The existing lighting seen here satisfies these lighting standards. The mast light provides illumination to assist industry vehicles, light up the conflict zone nearby, and help people navigate through the beach. The pedestrian lights achieve the same by maintaining a proportionate scale with respect to the people and adequate lux levels of 5 to 10 lux. The entire site follows this and has standard lux levels at all points. Our next hero is from Node 3, which is one of the main activity zones in our site. Here, the lighting generates a sense of motion awareness as it helps with wayfinding at the park. In addition to that, most of the lights in the park are low-lying, which is why there isn't any light spill towards the sky, thus providing to be a sensible way of lighting. We know how culture is an integral aspect to personify a place, and likewise to bring in an essence of that, monuments and statues in public places are the best way to do so. We can see how this whole site has a number of statues and monuments spread out around it, thus bringing in a factor of singularity and a common identity. With monuments, lighting comes to play an important factor, and this provides us with an opportunity to explore the subject. Moving on to the villains that we've identified, the first that we'd like to take a look at is the beach. That is the first node where lights used in the activity areas such as for games makes use of random bright lights by the owners, which gets reflected directly on the beach surface, disrupting the marine life. It confuses the zooplankton and phytoplankton, making them go deep underwater and allowing algae to settle at the surface, thus polluting the sea. The next villain is how dark spots and glare generated at different zones in the site makes it unsafe and unpleasant for users. While the lighting follows standard lux levels, the luminaries used are inappropriate to the sea, causing light spill. This, along with the awkward positioning of lights, creates dangerous dark spots as well, reducing the overall visual scope of the area. Even though we have divided the site into different nodes, it doesn't take away the fact of it being one whole site. However, we could observe a discontinuity in the lighting scheme across the site. As you can see from the images, all these parts of the site are in close proximity but do not have a common identity. The connection or the clarity of joints between these nodes have not been achieved with the lighting, making it difficult for the user to identify these areas as one. The final villain is perhaps the most important villain of this site. The images here suggest how user behavior and activities have not been studied well before finalizing the luminaries. For example, the light used near Gandhi's statue only lights up one part of it, leaving the rest as a dark spot, which is uncomfortable for people using it as a pause point. The lamp over the slide is spilling light and creating shadows in the play area, which is unsafe for children playing there after 6:45 pm. The parking lot also has one mast light directing people in and out of the seawalk, an activity which has the potential to be influenced by the lighting design. This displays how lighting schemes that do not consider user behavior and activities prove to be inadequate and doesn't serve the purpose of urban lighting. With this, we conclude our analysis of Malpe. To conclude our study of the three sites, we would like to say that though all three sites are close in vicinity, it is evident that we need to be contextually and culturally sensitive and make each proposal authentic to its location. We cannot end this presentation without mentioning our gratitude to the lighting experts and the MSAP faculty coordinators who helped us through our analysis for their guidance, insights, and patience. Thank you.